look, they got to be hunters. I've hunted for 35 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Legit hunted. Like, I didn't play sports. I hunted. So I hunted hundreds of days. I mean, I don't even know how many days I hunted last year. I hunted 23 days in Montana in the mountains. And the only reason I came out was because I burnt my cameraman out. He was done.
Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 271. Chuck Paddock, game camera maniac, entry routes, low pressure, and open season TV. Support for the Big Buck Registry and the Deer Hunt Podcast comes from Recology. Everything you need in one bag. Now available at Rural King and Orslin Farm and Home storefronts or online at www.recology.org. Quiet Cat, the all-terrain electric bicycle. Visit quietcat.com. That's QUIETKAT.com and use the discount code BIGBUCK15 to secure 15% off your next Quiet Cat purchase. Covert scouting cameras, remote cameras for hunting, wildlife, and security, and Big Buck merch. You can get cool, high-quality Big Buck t-shirts, long-sleeve t-shirts, and hoodies. And show support for this podcast by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/MERCH. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Brandon Adams with Major League Bowhunter, and you are about to listen to the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey guys, this is Seth Perkins from Beard Butcher Blend Seasoning, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Big Buck Registry.
This is Laura Zara from Naked and Afraid, and you're about to listen to my favorite podcast, Big Buck Registry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow predators. My name is Jay, and thank you for tuning in to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. For Dusty Phillips and Jim Keller and the entire staff here at the Big Buck Registry, welcome to this week's show. There are a couple things I'd like you to do for us if you could. If you would, please check us out on iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. With your help, we're going to try and push this show up the iTunes charts. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, and I need you to take some action. I need you to leave a review and subscribe to the show. If you do subscribe, that'll give you access and notification each and every week that a new show is released. You can also access this show in its entirety on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. It's all right there for you to access on demand at your fingertips. Regarding the harness program, we have an ample supply of harnesses to give away from our volunteer donors. If you're in need of a full-body harness, please send an email to jay@bigbuckregistry.com. After 35 years of hunting and after burning out a cameraman or two, there's no sign of Chuck Paddock hunting less. Chuck is a busy businessman and is part owner of Open Season TV. You may remember our interview on episode 200 with Chuck's partner, James Blakenbeckler. Chuck doesn't consider the work surrounding Open Season actual work, and it's not how he makes his living. But he sure does love to hunt, and he enjoys bringing his hunts to life for others through video. Chuck's big things are low pressure, careful entry and exit routes, and an abundant use of game cameras. We'll get to our entire interview with Chuck Paddock in just one moment. But before we do, let's hear from our friends at Recology and Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Hey, it's Eric Fitzgerald here with Recology. Wanted to visit you briefly about one of the most exciting products that we got in the market with Recology. This is our food plot fertilizer. You can supplement your deer right through your food plot with this product. This is not your normal NPK. This has got so many goodies in this bag. Basically what it does is it makes your soil work for you so you can get by with just using fertilizer like this and not a lot of synthetics. If you want a good food plot and you want deer coming in and healthy plants, look at the food plot fertilizer through Recology. Check us out at recology.org. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, this is Matt Duff with Major League Bowhunter. Now here's Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Our first story this week. Wyoming man charged for poaching 114 deer and antelope. This story is from the Sporting Classics Daily website. A Sheridan County, Wyoming resident has been charged with 2 misdemeanors and 9 felonies for wanton destruction of big game animals. Greg Lambden, a 62-year-old Sheridan resident, turned himself into the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office on Tuesday, February 5th. The first 2 charges, from July 2016 to November 2017 and December 2017 to March 2018, are high misdemeanors, which each carry punishment of 1 year imprisonment and $10,000 fine. Each additional charge within a 10-year time period results in a felony offense. The other 9 charges Lambden faces are felony offenses which each carry a punishment of 2 years imprisonment and $5,000 to $10,000 in fines. Lambden, in total, faces up to 20 years in prison and fines up to $110,000. The charges stem from a 2-month investigation by Wyoming Game and Fish Department law enforcement officers after information was provided to them about possible illegal activity on a property outside of Sheridan. The Sheridan-based Wyoming Game and Fish Department wardens learned from Sheridan County residents on November 20th, 2018, that they had seen their neighbor, Lambden, beating a deer on his property. The residents continued to observe Lambden and saw him dragging several bloated carcasses of white-tailed deer around his property with a lawnmower. Another hunter on land adjacent to Lambden's property noticed several deer carcasses in the thickets when hunting in 2017. After in-depth investigation of the man and his property, a WGFD investigator observed and videotaped Lambden killing a deer and leaving the carcass on his property. A search warrant was served on November 27, 2018, in cooperation with the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office, and in all, 113 deer and 1 antelope were killed illegally, with 1 deer killed legally with a deer license on his property when a friend came to hunt with him. He said that he killed fawns, does, and bucks, like others kill prairie dogs, but that unfortunately the law did not see it that way, court documents said. Lambden was released Tuesday after Norris Allen Carlson paid the $10,000 cash-only bond. Lambden is not allowed to have contact with neighbors or anyone listed in the case information. A preliminary hearing has not yet been set. Colorado man fights off, kills mountain lion during trail run, suffers serious injuries. This story is from the Fox News website and was reported by Edmund DeMarch. Try that again. This story is from the Fox News website and was reported by Edmund DeMarch. A Colorado runner was attacked Monday by a mountain lion during a trail run in the northern part of the state that resulted in puncture wounds to his face, arms, legs, and back, and the death of the animal. Rebecca Farrell, a spokeswoman for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, tells the Coloradoan the man was running alone at Horsetooth Mountain open space near Fort Collins when he was attacked from behind. The runner, whose name has not been released, fought off the cougar, killing it in the process, and hiked out of the area and drove himself to the hospital. The Denver Post reported that the runner suffered serious injuries that included facial bite wounds and lacerations to his body. He is expected to recover. Wildlife officers searching the trail found the juvenile mountain lion's body near several of the runner's possessions. They estimated that the animal weighed about 80 pounds. The runner did everything he could to save his life. In the event of a lion attack, you need to do everything in your power to fight back, just as the gentleman did, Mark Leslie, Colorado Parks and Wildlife Northeast Region Manager, told KKTV. The last mountain lion attack in Colorado was reported in June 2016 in Pitkin County. Pennsylvania's Sunday hunting bill passes game committee vote will move to Senate floor. This story is from the York Daily Record website and was reported by John Buffone. Pennsylvania just took the first step toward lifting the ban on Sunday hunting. The Pennsylvania Senate Game and Fisheries Committee approved Senate Bill 147 by a vote of 8-3, which will empower the Pennsylvania Game Commission to regulate Sunday hunting. The details of the vote were confirmed by Senator James R. Brewster's office. Brewster acts as the minority chair for the Game and Fish Committee. Senator Dan Laughlin, Republican from Erie, is the committee chairman and prime sponsor of the bill. Bill 147 will now be introduced to the floor of the Senate, where it will be voted on. If approved there, it will go to the State House of Representatives. If it makes it through the House in its original form, it will go to Governor Tom Wolf's desk for final approval. Crossbow proposal causes stir among Maine's deer hunters. This story is from the OutdoorNews.com website. The 3 largest hunting groups in Maine all oppose a proposal to allow the use of crossbows during the archery season for deer in the state. Deer hunting is a way of life in Maine where hundreds of hunters seek white-tailed deer every fall. But the hunting group said during a recent hearing that they fear adding crossbows to the hunt would reduce deer hunting opportunities for other sportsmen in the state. The Portland Press-Herald reports the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine, the Maine Professional Guides Association, and the Maine Bowhunters Association all opposed the crossbow bill. However, a few hunters at the same legislative hearing spoke out in favor of adding the new hunting method to the season. The bill's sponsor says the change would encourage more people to hunt. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. Special thanks to Daniel Applebaum, Ken DeRosiers, David Keller, and John Geis for leads on stories this week. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have any questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Well, thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is Chuck Paddock from Open Season TV. Chuck Paddock, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. It's almost springtime.
It is. The snow is melting as we speak.
Yep. Yeah, it's been, I'm down in Nashville for the NWPF convention, and it's about 55 degrees.
Well, okay. You probably have zero snow around you.
Zero snow. At home, I was in Houston last week for work, and so it was nice because we were getting pounded with snow, and I wasn't getting to experience any of it.
Gotcha. You have a television show, obviously, Open Season Television. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did that all come together?
Well, it's kind of a fluke deal. My buddy James wanted to film and hunt, and I had filmed in the 90s, done some filming with some guys out of Kentucky, and kind of got over it, right? Big cameras, tapes, all that other nonsense. And James was, he got the itch to film. So I said, well, you're going to have to get somebody else to film with you because I'm really not interested. And so he found a guy, and they went to the ATA show, and they met up with a guy, Tommy Martinier, the original owner of Open Season TV. And so they were off to the races. They're going to film and hunt and all that good stuff. So about 6 months in, that guy kind of fizzled out, and James talked me into doing it. So next thing you know, we were filming that fall. So that's kind of how we started. We started as pro staff, and about 6 months in, Tommy came to us and just said, hey man, I don't think this thing's going to work. I can't get the money for the sponsorships. I've spent a fortune. So he said, I think I'm just going to bag it. And I was like, well, let me try to find some sponsors.
Yep.
So, I made thousands of phone calls, man. I didn't have any idea how it all worked or anything. And I've learned a lot in the last 10 years, how the hunting industry works and who controls what and when budgets are done. And, I pretty much, when marketing guys talk to me, they don't realize it, but when they start saying certain things, I know either they're in or they're out before they even get 5 sentences in. But so anyway, that's kind of how we got started.
Gotcha.
And I found, some sponsors, and we were off to the races. And then in 2011, we bought Tommy out. He had kind of lost his love to do it, and so we bought him out, and it's just been James and I ever since.
Gotcha. So you were carrying around some big cameras back then. Yeah, cameras were bigger. How has that changed these days? What kind of cameras are you shooting now?
We use the Sony FS5 and we use the Sony A7S, which are kind of two different type filming. One of them is more of the typical movie camera, and the other one's a DSLR.
Okay.
In my opinion, I like the DSLR better. I like the look of it better. And it's just, it's so much crisper, and we can put wireless mics and boom mics and everything on the DSLRs now. Equipment has gotten so much better in the last 10 years. It's unbelievable. Typically when we first started, we would quit hunting about 30 minutes before dark, before say right at sundown. So you literally lost your 30 minutes of good hunting, right? Which was really frustrating for me because, a lot of times that's when the deer are coming out. So
yeah, it is. That's exactly when they're coming out.
Yeah. So that was really frustrating. Well, now we shoot with a Sony A7S, and you can actually film way past legal. So it's nice because you can film right to legal and then get out of the tree. You don't have to worry about, the camera impeding you. You no longer have to worry about that.
Right.
That's not even an option anymore. So
gotcha. Do you like filming your hunts? I mean,
I do. I've grown to enjoy it. It's just part of what I do. I get a lot of new cameramen and stuff a lot of times, and, because guys typically, there's not a lot of money in it. So guys grow up, get a girlfriend, get married, have kids. Next thing you know, they get a real job, right?
Right.
So, I go through cameramen hit and miss, and I pretty much can tell them what to do. I know I've filmed a lot, so I know how to film. I know how to set up. So literally I can set everything up almost, and not even, all they got to do is push record, right? I mean, it's if they're having trouble with a mic or they're having trouble with something, I know how to fix it. I'm not just a typical host that just, paid for a bunch of cameramen and going to be the next Michael Waddell. So,
right.
I actually filmed. So it's nicer to go, oh, hey, do this, or, hey, what's your ISO set at? What's your aperture set at? Those little things, and say, hey, change that, change your f-stop down to, f 4.0 or 5 or whatever, and then, change your ISO. So those little things like that I can kind of help them with. So,
gotcha.
But it's just part of what I do. I don't kill anything off film. I mean, we just don't. It's not optional. I've lost several big animals and not had the opportunity to shoot them because the cameraman couldn't get on them. But, I just chalk it up as that's just part of it,
Let's talk about the marketing part. You said you went out and got sponsors because your other partner couldn't at the time or was not having success. We've found that it can be difficult. I think it's on everybody's mind, especially these days with, the television scene changing and everything going digital, and people are changing their mindsets. How have things changed for you, and how have they stayed the same? Are there still the techniques the same, or are you trying new things?
People are people, right? So that hasn't changed. So depending on, I try to figure out what makes somebody tick, right? What's, and some of them won't tell you, and some of them I don't know that they know. Some people, there's all different reasons why marketing guys do what they do. Some guys will sponsor you because they're friends with you and they like you. Some sponsor you because they want to see the numbers. They're all about numbers. It just depends, man. It's all over the board when it comes to marketing guys. There's no silver bullet. I mean, I've been through it, and it's over and over and over. I've went down, and some just they've got their people they want to use, and you're not getting in no matter what. I don't care if I had 10 million a week watching my show. They don't care, which is really bizarre to me, because I think numbers is where it's at, right? If you sponsor me and I promote your products, and I talk about them on my show, I show them on my show, and I have good numbers, that's a no-brainer. You're going to get branding. That's what I'm, you're paying me for. Whereas I don't know that some people look at it that way. I don't know. I told a guy the other day I thought I should be a marketing guy now, because I really get what it takes to market, just because I've been doing it for so long, and I see people come and go constantly. I mean, that's a revolving door, marketing people. Right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched people come and go, marketing people and companies that I deal with, and sometimes it's the kiss of death for us. Sometimes they come in, they got their own ideas, their own people, and you get the boot no matter how good you are, so you just, you take it. I learned a long time ago, it's not a stable environment, right? I was standing in my driveway. It was about midnight. We were talking about the show, and we were saying, man, if we could just get a couple more good commercial sponsors, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, you know what? This is not this is an environment that's going to always be unstable. No matter how good you are, people are going to change, companies are going to change, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So I just thought to myself, either I'm going to deal with it and like it, or I'm not. I'm out. One of the two. But I'm not going to get stressed out about it, right? Because it is what it is. So, from that day on, I just, when sponsors leave us, I hate it, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I can't make them stay, Right. But my goal is to promote. I mean, if you don't promote as a TV show, then you're not going to last, because you have to promote. It's funny. I watch some of the big names, and I won't name who it is, but I've watched companies spend literally 6 figures, and they never talk about the product. They'll pay these people a fortune, and then they kick themselves 2 years down the road for wasting the money. And I just sit there and think, man, I don't care how big I don't care if it's Donald Trump. If nobody knows Donald Trump shoots a freaking Martin bow or whatever, then guess what? Nobody's buying a Martin bow, because Donald Trump shoots it. I mean, it's that simple. So it's funny how that is, how some people will spend money with certain people, and then they realize later, they're like, man, that was a huge mistake.
Right.
Because people don't, if they don't know you use it, they're not going to buy it. I mean, I say that all the time, that especially bow hunters, you have to prove that it works. If it doesn't work, they're not going to buy it. I mean, Quaker Boy had the can call first, right? And then Primos come out and made videos and showed it working, and they sold can calls to everybody in America and still do.
Right.
But because they physically showed them that it worked. And I see that a lot, where these people coming in and they're wanting to do digital media and blah, blah, blah. And, and I have 2 girls, okay? Both my girls hunted, so I'm not beating up young girls. But there's a lot of girls getting money and getting things that don't have a clue on how to hunt. And it's like, just because she's standing there in tight jeans and a tight shirt holding the product doesn't mean I'm buying the product. And
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, these guys don't get it. Some of these marketing people, they just don't get it. It's like, look, they got to be hunters. I've hunted for 35 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Legit hunted. Like, I didn't play sports. I hunted. So I hunted hundreds of days. I mean, I don't even know how many days I hunted last year. I hunted 23 days in Montana in the mountains. And the only reason I came out was because I burnt my cameraman out. He was done. I mean, or I would have hunted longer, right? I mean, I don't get burned out ever. Like, I hunt day after day after day. I would hunt if I didn't have another job and pay the bills with my, if I did this for a living, which I probably would never do unless I was in the clique, where they, there's certain people get a lot of money. Right. I can hunt every day. I mean, I can hunt every day of my life. I love it, So
I can relate to that. That's for sure. So would you say that the marketing aspect is about persistence and accepting change? It sounds like
it is 100%.
Okay. All right.
It is. That's how you survive. Yeah. I mean, that's how I've survived. We seen the digital thing and the social media thing way before everybody else did. And we started marketing our page, and we have like 250,000 followers, 252 right on Facebook, which is huge now, because that would cost you a fortune to get those people like your page now, right?
Right.
But when Facebook was first coming on board and coming on strong, they were allowing us out there. We were reaching 70 to 80 million a week.
Yep.
On our page, right? And then they shut it off on a Wednesday afternoon. I remember it because it terrified me. I thought they shut our page down because they don't like hunting, right? So I thought that was, they had shut our page down. But what they did was they just basically shut off what they call the algorithms. But what they do is, let's say I make a post on open season, and you, Bill, and Tom like my page. Well, you get to see it today. Tom sees it next week, and Bill sees it 2 weeks from now. So if that was a viral type post that all of you liked, you don't get to see it immediately. So that's how they keep it from going viral. It's very hard to get a post to go viral for everyone to see it, because that's how they changed everything. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. The Facebook platform has changed dramatically since 2013. And maybe you've had the same experience. I don't know when that Wednesday was, but to me, it was when they went public, and then they had to answer to a lot of other people. And it was, they had a lot of free for all prior to that date. Now they have to answer to shareholders, and shareholders may or may not be hunting fans, and they erred on the side of caution, and still today do that. Now they've got it choked down more than anything.
Yeah, for instance, I have a real estate company, and I can post ads, and every single one of them get approved immediately.
Right.
If I post ads for open season with any kind of kill pictures or anything, it gets denied. Right. Which is ridiculous, because hunting is legal.
Right.
I'm like, look, man, this is a legal thing in America. I'm not doing something illegal. They should allow that. But, the hunting industry, has not banded together and attacked Facebook together, because they just haven't. I don't think we need an organization like the NRA, in hunting that goes after these guys and says, look, this is something that's legal and you should allow it. Mm-hmm. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it, you're hindering my freedom of speech. You know, I mean, they really are.
Right. No, I get these arguments from the middle ground on NRA stuff and hunting all the time. Is like, they say that the NRA is such an extremist group and that you shouldn't belong to them. I'm like, have you seen the other side? Have you seen the other side of the extreme? Right. Yeah. In order to have a neutral ground, we must be extreme on both sides.
Yeah. Definitely.
And we have to counter that with an extreme party like the NRA, and you're darn right I'll give them my dollars because of that.
Oh yeah. If you don't, they're going to fight twice as hard as you, and they know how to get to the lobbyists and get to the politicians to make those laws to try to change them. So if you don't fight it, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way. What should happen, in my opinion, when someone challenges gun laws in this country, they should be tried for treason because they're going against the Constitution. Now that would stop that if they would do that, but the politicians aren't going to. But I'm just saying, it may sound extreme, but in my opinion, it's not. Because if you do anything against the Constitution, against this country, the founding fathers, what they designed, which was awesome, right? For freedom, then you should be put in jail for treason. You just should. You're basically attacking the rights of the people.
Right.
So,
to me, yes, I support some of these extremists, and maybe I don't agree with everything the NRA does, but I certainly am going to support them because I really disagree with the other side. Really disagree with them. Everything they do is just incorrect. So it's fine. Totally fine with me.
The lack of respect for human life in this country is the problem, and people not raising their kids and loving them like my parents did me was a problem.
Right. Right. Gotcha.
So
let's talk about you a little bit, Chuck. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Indiana. I live right where I've lived my whole life, my dad wasn't a hunter, but we moved out in the country when I was, I'm guessing around 5 years old. And it was funny, man. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I went out there with my two dogs, climbed up in a tree, sat there till dark, and saw a buck, probably I'm guessing 120, 130 inch deer, but I thought it was a monster. And I ran back home, and I was addicted to hunting ever since. And my dad took me hunting. He bought me my first .22 rifle when I was 8 years old. Now he hunted when he was a kid, but he wasn't a hardcore hunter, right? He'd rabbit hunt, squirrel hunt, whatever. And so he went through all of the, he was hardcore about gun safety and treating a gun being loaded, even if it isn't, it's still loaded, and that it can kill you or someone else, and you don't point at the road, you don't point at people. I mean, he was a maniac about that. And by the time I was 9, he started letting me hunt by myself, which I think is crazy, but he did. And I started squirrel hunting and stuff with that .22 rifle. It was a little Rossi when I was 9 years old, and I have just been a maniac hunter ever since. I mean, I went from, I couldn't kill anything. It took me 4 or 5 years. Finally, I killed my first deer in 87, and I started killing them, and it was kind of like Brown, it's down. I was killing everything I could see, hunt.
Sure.
And then I slowly started wanting to kill something a little bigger. And, and then I consider myself a trophy hunter, but I don't push that off on people because I believe that really hunting is about enjoying yourself, having fun with friends, and feeling the rush. And if a 6-pointer that's 12 inches wide gives you that rush, then you should shoot it. I just believe that. I tell everybody that comes hunting with me, I have a certain size deer that I want to kill, but I said, score doesn't make you happy. I said, what should make you happy is you should be able to shoot an animal and enjoy the hunt and the rush from it and enjoy the meat from it and all that. But if you're enjoying yourself and having fun, that's what it's about. But if you shoot a deer and it scores 4 inches smaller than what you think and you're not happy, then you're missing what's important and what's right in hunting. Right. I believe.
Right. I agree. You're missing the point if you don't get some kind of exhilaration out of you set your own standard as to what you want to go get, but I'm never going to turn around and judge your standard, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll shoot 140, 150-inch deer, right? Be happy as lark, even though I probably could have killed a big one. I did this year. I killed probably a mid-150s 10-pointer with my bow on my second sit. But I take a lot of people hunting, and I didn't have a lot of time, so I knew that was a great buck, and I was pumped. Killed him. I shot him at 14 steps. And but I knew I could have probably killed a bigger deer. You know what I'm saying? I had bigger deer in the woods and I could have killed one, but for starters, I am filming a TV show, and you know, nobody wants to watch me walk around the woods not shooting something. I mean, that's the whole point. You know?
Right. Do you ever feel pressure because of the TV show to shoot?
No, you know, man, I've never felt any pressure. I killed, I think, 6 on film this year, big game animals. I killed an antelope, a mule deer, an elk, 2 whitetails, and a black bear. And we killed 31 big game animals on film. It's nice because we have a lot of we don't have a lot of pro staff, but we got guys that can produce.
Yep.
So we've always produced animals. I mean, I think if we didn't produce kills, then maybe I would feel that pressure. I don't know, but we never have, because we've always produced a lot of kills on film. And so, you know, it is what it is. I told myself a long time ago when I was hunting just whitetails by myself in Indiana, that if I killed 1 good buck a year, I'd be happy. And you know what? Even though I hunt all over North America, I've still stayed with that. If I kill 1 good animal, I'm happy. I don't care if I killed 4 on film, 6 on film, 7 on film, whatever, doesn't matter. If I kill 1 good animal, I'm good for the year. Mentally, you know, so I just don't have any kind of stress. Right. You know, if I kill 4, I kill 6, I kill whatever, it doesn't matter to me. So
gotcha. Let's take a little break and check in with our friends at Recology. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Chuck Paddock from Open Season TV.
Recology Deer Supplement and Attractant, developed through years of intense scientific research, comes a product that puts it all in one bag. Superior attractant, scientifically formulated vitamins and minerals, and all at a much better price. To get yours today, please check out Recology.org for a list of dealers. Recology, how can you afford not to use it? Everything deer need, all in one bag.
And now back to our conversation with Chuck Paddock from Open Season TV. Let's go back to 87 and tell me about that hunt, your first deer kill. What was that like?
I remember it like it was yesterday, dude. That was a long time ago. Right. So me and a buddy were hunting together, and I was in what we call the killing tree. And he was hunting over on a hickory tree, and it was about 8:30, and he got down and come over to my stand, right? And I got down, you know, because that's typical what you do when you don't know what you're doing, right? You sit for an hour and a half, and then you get down, start walking around, right? So we made a loop around this bedding area, and we were sneaking through, and I stopped him and said, "Whoa, look at them deer." And they were coming right to us. Well, there was a doe that was in heat, and a little 6-pointer, and then this monster 12-pointer, dude. I mean, huge buck. And that big buck came up and hit that 6-pointer in the hind end, and he come running up to me and my buddy, and we both drew our bows, and I shot him first. I shot first and spined him and dropped him. And I still have that deer mounted. He is actually in with all my big deer. He sits beside and he probably doesn't score 40 inches, right? Yeah. And I have the same arrow. It's an XX75 orange arrow with a satellite broadhead that's in between his rack, and you know, I'll never forget that hunt. I mean, I remember sitting by that deer, and I was told my buddy, said, "Go get my dad. I'm not going to leave him. I don't want anybody to steal that deer." Now, nobody was going to steal that deer, right? But I was so pumped. I didn't want to lose him, right? And I think that, you know, that's an awesome feeling. Now, the problem is with some TV shows today that they try to emulate that, your first deer, your biggest deer, you know, and you're not going to feel that every time. So for me, I'm excited I make a good shot, but I'm who I am, right? And I have fun and I enjoy that. But if I'm pumped and freaked out of my mind because I shot a monster deer, you know, like I shot a buck that was on Monster Bucks on Realtree, and that was a cool hunt. I had fooled him, and he scored right at close to 170. But you know, then that's my biggest deer, so I'm going to be a little more excited. But I try to just be me, you know, on every hunt. You know, gotcha. I'm me. There's no acting. I'm no actor. So.
Right. So if doing what you do, and growing up hunting, you have to pass that on to your children. You said you had 2 daughters that hunt. How did you go about passing along your passion to your kids? And do you ever see or feel, or did you ever feel that your kids were somewhat reluctant to take on Dad's love of the outdoors? Well,
I tell you what. So I took them both, and one of them loves hunting like I do, and one of them doesn't. Okay. And she went and she hunted with me and she shot stuff. But, it was all about breakfast. Okay. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but when I started taking my girls out, literally we would put a blind up and get in there, and 10 minutes later they wanted to go. So I'd pack the blind up and we'd go have breakfast. And I would take them in the mornings and I would go hunt. And the older they got, the longer they would stay, but it was all about fun and about breakfast. And it was funny because I think they literally just wanted to go hunting so they could go eat breakfast. Right.
Right. It might be the case.
But, yeah. But the cool part was, we had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. And my daughter killed probably a mid 140s this year with her bow, with her husband, who loves hunting, who she got into hunting when he met me. Now he's a maniac, hunter.
Nice.
And, he's been hunting for, I think, 5 years now, but my youngest daughter, she could take it or leave it. She really doesn't, enjoy that. And I told her that's fine. It's not for everyone, but we still had some good times and enjoyed hunting and stuff like that. So, yeah, you'll see it. I mean, some kids take to it and some don't. And, at the end of the day, I don't force it down her throat. If she doesn't enjoy it, she doesn't enjoy it. It is what it is. I still love her. She's still my girl,
Yep.
But I think that if people would take their kids out and it be more about not the hunting as much as the being together and doing something fun like that. Cause my dad did that stuff with me. We would go out and then we would go get milkshakes. So,
right.
And I take my girls to the same place, to go get breakfast or whatever. So it's passing that on and that enjoyment of, being in the outdoors.
Gotcha. Yeah. Those are good tips. Speaking of tips, let's talk about some of the things that you've learned over the years hunting as many places as you do. How many places have you hunted overall?
Oh, man, I don't know.
And if you lost count, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I've hunted North America. I've hunted almost every province in Canada except British Columbia. I've hunted all over the United States, out west in Arizona, hunting elk to Maine, hunting in Maine, the East Coast. I mean, I've hunted all over. So.
All right. Give me your top 5 states.
I'd probably have to say Colorado, elk and mule deer hunting is probably my number one. I really enjoy it. And then I love Kansas, Indiana, my home state. I love that. I love Kentucky, hunting in Kentucky every year. And probably, I would say Ohio. I would say Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, those are the top states I like to hunt in. So.
Gotcha. So, of all the places that you've been in your top 5, what are some of the strategies that you feel that you use in each place, like commonly?
I would say it's funny because they're all similar. You still got to hunt with the wind in your face,
okay.
Even though I take a lot of precautions with scent control, I use dead downwind products like MAD, and I use the ozone technology like MAD. I still pay attention to the wind. Now, the wind can swirl and the wind can change and the wind can do crazy things because depending on thermals and all that stuff and where you're hunting at. So, I still do those things, but I still hunt with the wind in my face. And typically, when I've beaten some of the big bucks, big whitetails in the Midwest, I beat them because they thought they were safe and they weren't. I was blowing my scent over the edge of a big cliff or a ravine or whatever, or I come in through a ravine, and hunted the edge of this ridge. I'm very low impact. We do not walk around in our woods. I don't shed hunt. Just because it freaks me out. I worry I'm going to push one of these deer off, off the property.
Yep.
So I don't really shed hunt. We turkey hunt a little bit, but our deer get very low impact. My son-in-law, I called in an 8-year-old deer he killed this year at 4:30 in the afternoon. He was out walking around with does because he's not pressured, and that's huge, and coming from the age of being young and being an idiot and walking all over the woods when I was younger, making deer go nocturnal, realizing, hey, that's a bad idea, and the less I pressured the deer, the more I saw long term, and the more chances I got to kill big deer because I wasn't pressuring them, and when the neighbors and stuff were pushing them on us, I've got a little corner there where I killed my deer this year. It's no brainer. James almost killed a monster there in the same tree stand. And it's because the neighbors are pushing them deer into a corner, and they're staying in that one spot, and we don't go in there. We just hunt the very edge of it and hunt along the fence row, and they walk right along the fence inside the woods thinking they're totally safe, you know?
So your idea of pressure and to be successful is even going back to shed hunting. Like, you feel like shed hunting disrupts some of those bucks to the point where they may not come back.
Yeah, I mean, they get to become old, grouchy old men, right? I mean, I've watched deer. The older they get, the ornerier they get. And I just think they don't like it. I mean, you talk to Lee Lukowski, he'll tell you he don't even walk in his woods. He's got world-class animals. He don't walk in his woods ever. They hunt them food plots and stuff. And I walk in the woods, but I use ravines. I use a lot of ravines to enter and exit of woods. You know, anywhere I can come in where they don't know I'm hunting them, and I can come in and go out without them knowing, that's what I try to do. So the ravine, and let's expand upon that a little bit. How do you know that you're not hunting, or how do you trick them into thinking you're not hunting them by going through a ravine? Well, for instance, I killed that big 170 class deer. Everybody that had hunted that property before I got it always walked the top because it was easier to walk into there. But the problem is they were pushing the deer out to the east to the neighbor, okay? And there was a big thicket up there. So instead, I walked 3/4 of a mile. I walked down this big, giant ravine area. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's almost, we call it a holler, right? And it's real wide, big, deep ravine. And it's got ridges on the top, left and right. So I would walk that, and then I would turn and go up a ravine, and I put my stand right on the end of a ravine that was cut into the ridge. So they walk around that. They'll walk around the mouth of that, right? And that's just what that deer did. He basically come walking along the side of that big ridge and just walked around that ravine. And I was right there, and I was hunting it with a southwest wind blowing it right over the edge. So would you say that you kind of pay attention to what everybody else would have done, and you do something opposite, so as you be like sometimes one of the only ones not doing what the masses are doing? You know what? Sometimes, I find a lot of tree stands in a really good spot. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're just not entering and exiting correctly. Okay. Because they just ignore it. They're like, oh, I got to walk through there. Well, even if it's literally as much as 8 foot, if you've got a little shelf that's 6 or 8 foot, walk on the bottom side of it. Walk down in the creek bottom, walk ravines and stuff, because that noise gets muffled when you do that. Versus just tromping across the ridge. I don't walk the ridges. I hunt them, but I don't walk on top of them. So when you walk the ravine, I want to try to piece this together. So you're trying to avoid their senses. You're trying to avoid sound. You're trying to avoid smell and eyesight, it sounds like. Yep. And I'm trying to avoid where they walk. They don't want to walk them ravines. They'll cross them, but if it's a real steep ravine or something that's, kind of a pain to get up through, they won't walk those. Okay. They'll walk the easiest path of resistance where most people like to walk. So if you walk in those areas, you're coming up in there and then sneaking and just hop up into a tree stand. They have no idea they're being hunted. That's an interesting perspective like that. Cause I can remember some spots that were really hard to get to. And the deer generally didn't like to go there. They were more or less coming in from the top, and I was going in from the bottom through some really steep areas. But, man, I saw deer every single day. And the guys that were coming in from the top were saying, man, that place stinks. There's never any deer there. So I see deer every day. So they're pushing them out. Right. Yeah, they're pushing them. Yeah. Because they push them out. I mean, that's just, you can't let them know they're being hunted. If they do, if they know, they're out. Right. I mean, they'll just move over. They won't go, and most of them will, if they're not pressured real hard, they won't even go nocturnal. They'll just move over where you're not at. So they'll go to a corner where you haven't been, and they'll just bed there and feed there and mill around. And then when it gets dark, then they'll, gotcha. Then they'll move. So this strategy that you talk about, is this something that you use in each of those states? Yeah. Similar. Yep. Similar. Yep. Okay. Even hunting elk and everything. I mean, it's all really similar. Okay. Yep. We use things to walk behind them or hide behind them or Okay. What is your style of hunting? And when I say that, are you tree stand hunters, blind hunters, stalkers, trackers? When it comes to whitetails and bears and stuff like that, I'm a tree stand hunter. When it comes to elk, mule deer, and antelope, then I spot and stalk them. So. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yep. Now I would love to hunt elk with a tree stand, and hopefully, like in a year or two, I think a buddy of mine is going to get some buy out an outfitter that he actually tree stand hunts elk, and I would love to do that just because I've never done it.
Okay.
So,
bow hunter, gun hunter, which is your preference?
I'm a bow hunter. I love bow hunting, but I kill a bunch of stuff with a gun. I'm old enough now. I don't have anything to prove, so I don't care if I kill it with a gun or a bow. It doesn't bother me because I don't have to prove that I'm a good hunter. I already know. I know, and I'm not being arrogant, right? I'm not trying to be ornery, but I've hunted for 35 years. I know I can shoot stuff, so I have nothing to prove. I think that you go through phases in your life where you start out where you can't do it, you finally do it, you got something to prove. Then you kill, like, say, 2 or 3 big deer, right? You really think you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You think you've got it figured out. And then when you get older, you realize you really didn't have it figured out, right? And I learn stuff all the time, and every time I go hunting. They teach me things all the time. I'm constantly learning. But, at the end of the day, the more you hunt, and the more time you spend a field, I tell everybody, look, you can read all the magazines and books in the world you want, but at the end of the day, if you don't spend time afield, you will not learn. You have to be in the woods.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's where the rubber meets the road, right? That's where you have to educate yourself and apply all these things that you think you learned. You got to go. You have to go do it. You have to execute it.
Yeah, and you can't count. You can't learn during season, right? You need to scout when season's not going on. And then you can't scout during season. You scout in the winter, you scout January, February, March, whatever. And then you hunt, and if you scout more and hunt, you'll hunt less, I promise you. So
right, that's a very good point. Let's go through your gear setup. I know you've got probably some kind of fanatic regiment of scent control, but what else are you using for base layers, warm gear, cold gear, early season, late season? What are you shooting for bows? What's your general setup? I
really try to layer. I mean, I layers is my thing. So I don't wear real heavy stuff. I mainly just layer my clothes. I'll do a lightweight, long underwear, and then I'll put a shirt and, pullover shirt and pants, and then I'll put a little heavier pants on over. And really, if I do like 3 layers, and sometimes I'll do double shirt, double light pants, and then do a heavier pant, that's about all I use. I mean, I just mainly just layer up. So. Okay. All right. Yeah. What about boots? What are you using for boots? Lacrosse boots. I love them. Okay. Rubber? They're the best. All rubber? Yep. I use the rubber boots. I'm getting ready to start using they're coming out with a whole new line of boots for out west and stuff for hiking. So. Gotcha. Okay. So. What about your tree stands? You said that you set up a tree stand in a place where the deer will roam, and you exit and enter in the places where they don't like to walk. How do you decide to place a tree stand in a particular spot? And then what kind of tree stands are you using? Doing hang-ons, ladder stands? What's your preference? Well, I like hang-ons, and I like to be at least 20 feet in the air. So minimum. I've had some stands as far as high as 40 feet because I had to go into a ravine and I had to climb up to get above 20 feet when they were coming off of 2 ridges crossing in front of me like an X. Right. So it just depends on, but typically it's 20 feet plus. I like to be above, kind of gets above their eyes, where I can get drawn and move on them, Right. Gotcha. So what about your bow setup? What are you shooting? Right now I'm shooting an Obsession bow, 70 pounds. I'm shooting victory arrows. And then I've been shooting a dead ringer broadhead, for years, called a Super Freak Extreme. And then I got a spot hog sight, 7-pin sight, and dead center, stabilizers. So, and trophy taker rest. I mean, all really, I just like to get stuff that doesn't break. I mean, that's a good point. Because there's so much stuff out there, and if it doesn't last, then I'm out. So the stuff has to last. I mean, you can beat the tar out of a spot hog sight, and it just lasts. It'll be the last sight you buy. So you love to hunt. You'd spend probably all year out there if you could. You have this is not your primary profession. You have another job. Go ahead. Yeah. I have a land company, a real estate company called Legacy Land Co. We're in Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Kentucky, getting ready to be in Tennessee and Iowa. So we have real estate brokers all over the states, and I'm a part owner in that, and it's growing all the time. So
gotcha. What are your biggest challenges now as a hunter? I mean, you've got a lot of experience. You're starting to figure this out. Where do you want to grow in hunting? What's your challenge?
You know what, man? I think I enjoy the sunrises and sunsets more and more every time I go hunting. Sure. I mean, I think that, not that I've arrived and I can kill anywhere, but I just enjoy hunting. I just enjoy the hunt. And if I kill, I kill. And if I don't, I don't. I don't get depressed over it, and that I've come, back being a kid, I used to get all bummed out and, so for me, I'm in a good place in my life when it comes to hunting. I don't have nothing to prove. I've killed some awesome animals, stuff I would have never killed before if I'd have just stayed, not doing the show. So for me, I am content. See, a lot of people are, there's a difference between discontentment and contentment and complacency. I'm still striving to kill a world record, right? But I'm not discontent about it. And I think that that's where people need to step back and evaluate themselves and say, am I discontent and miserable because I don't have what Johnny has, or am I content but still striving to do better? Mm-hmm. Now, if you're complacent where you just are lazy, and that's one thing, and you're just not striving to do better, but I think people get it messed up. You got to be content with what you have, and if you do get that big buck or whatever, awesome, but be happy for your buddies down the road who killed one, because they don't come around every day,
Right. Gotcha. Let's talk about one of your most memorable deer hunts that you've been on. And I don't know if it's the 1987 one, which we've already talked about, but what's one that sticks out in your head? Like, oh man, that was a really good hunt.
Oh, I've got so many of them, but I'd say the whitetail that I killed on that ridge that was on Realtree. I never had a dream to have a TV show, but I always wanted to be on Monster Bucks. So the fact that I got to be on Monster Bucks with that kill was pretty awesome. Okay. And I killed him at like 12 steps, right? And he totally was coming in to scent check does. But, I didn't hunt that tree stand the day before. I had a northwest wind, and if I would have blew him out of there. Even though I didn't know he was in there at the time, I knew they'd cut the corn, and there was going to be, that I knew that deer was in the woods, but I figured if they cut the corn, he'd be in there. So, when I got in there that morning and he came in and I shot him, I mean, that was pretty awesome, pretty awesome experience and really killer footage. And it was a good time.
So you knew about the deer through trail camera technology, scouting?
Trail cameras. Okay. Yeah. I used covert cameras. I used probably 60 of them. I mean, I'm a maniac about cameras. I've got 12 cell phone cameras that go into areas where I don't walk in until I'm ready to hunt in there. So I use cameras to kind of be my eyes and ears. Okay,
so you're a camera guy. That's one of your secret weapons.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, okay. I use a lot of cameras. Yep.
All right.
They're priceless, man. You can't beat them. I mean, you just especially if you don't have time to hunt, right? So a lot of guys, what they do is they don't have time. So then on the weekend when they go hunting, they tromp all over their woods trying to do some scouting. Well, let your cameras do the scouting for you. Put them out there, leave them out there. And then that way you go check your cameras on the edges and stuff. You're going to know what you have to hunt and what's in the woods.
Yeah. From what you've told me about your style of hunting, you must love cell camera technology.
I do. It's awesome. I mean, I started with the string, man, the little trail marker with the string that went across the trail. Oh yeah, dude. I started from that, and now the technology is just unbelievable. So yeah, we have a bunch of cell phone cameras. I think my son-in-law's got like 6 of them too. So we got like 18, I think, total. So
yeah, they are fast.
I haven't killed, what's interesting is I haven't killed a deer that I didn't know was there in years. I don't even know how long. I know every deer that's on our properties.
Really?
Okay. Oh yeah, it's a rare day that something gets by me that I didn't know.
And how, so let's talk about this for a second. So you like cell camera technology. You know all the deer that are on the places where you're hunting. How do you strategically place these cameras so that you can monitor them correctly?
So what I do is I'll put them on the edges of fields and ravines and pinch points. So I'll go in and I find the bedding areas, right? And that's where I put my cell phone cameras is in the bedding areas. And then that way I'm good to go. And then I'll go in and check them every week. Like before season, I'll check them every week. And then once season hits, I may check them every 3 weeks, something like that. So
you put your cell cameras in the bedding areas, which makes sense.
Yep.
And then the non-cell cameras, you'll check them once a week or so. Is that what you said?
Yep. And then once deer season comes in, I already know what's going on, and I don't have to check them then. I'm usually pretty good. I'll check them hit and miss, but I don't check them too much.
How far in advance of the season do you start putting cameras out for monitoring?
Late June. Usually.
June. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Very good. What's next for open season television? Any new projects?
I'm getting ready to start turkey hunting. I mean, we'll start turkey hunting, and then we hunt bears in the springtime. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let me hit you with 10 rapid fire questions here, Chuck.
Okay.
All right. What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
I would say, whatever you do, don't pressure the animals.
Okay. All right.
That's key.
We all have these things that not all of us, but some of us have these items that we'd like to take in the woods with us, kind of like a good luck charm or just something you feel kind of naked if you don't have it with you in the woods. What's that one thing for you?
My rangefinder.
Rangefinder. I'm with you, man. I love my rangefinder. I mean, I feel just completely inadequate without the rangefinder.
Yeah.
What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
I don't know. Probably just people not enjoying hunting and watching people fight with each other about, who's the biggest deer, who's the smartest hunter, all that stuff.
Gotcha. How old are you today, Chuck?
46.
46.
Almost 47.
Right.
Yep.
What would you tell the 24-year-old Chuck Paddock, knowing what you know today?
Don't think you know too much. Get out there and spend time afield and scout off season as much as you can and learn as much as you can.
Gotcha. All right. You're at a hunting convention somewhere in the world. A stranger comes up to you and asks you what you do for a living. What would you tell him?
A whole lot of everything. So real estate, but I don't do hunting for a living. So.
Right. Gotcha. What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
What did I have? I had waffles and sausage.
All right. Very good. You can have your own billboard on the side of a highway. It's a blank canvas. You can put anything you want on it. What would it say?
Life's short. Don't sweat the small stuff.
I like that. That's your mantra, isn't it?
It is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
Probably my parents, because they got it in life, Yep. They were such good people, and they were definitely successful. Not successful in the money side of things, but in the, life.
Life.
So,
gotcha.
Yep.
All right. What's a day in your life look like?
Rat race every day. I've got, the barge company and this real estate thing. So
up early, down late.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then finally, what's a deer hunting day in your life look like?
Daylight till dark.
Daylight till dark. Very good, Chuck. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and learning about who you are and what you got going on.
All right.
I have to wish you the best of luck in turkey season and next season at the NWTF.
Well, I'll appreciate you having me on, and anytime you want to talk, I love talking hunting.
I really enjoyed having Chuck on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation that we had with Chuck's partner, James Blakenbeckler, a couple years ago. The crew at Open Season TV are some of my favorite deer hunters on the planet. I just can't say enough of that crew. Going a little deeper with Chuck to find out what makes him tick, what makes him get out in the woods, what makes him feel like he's a successful hunter was really a piece of the puzzle that I wanted to bring to everybody who listens to the Deer Hunt podcast. Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here in the studios with me?
Shoot me an email, Dusty at BigBuckRegistry.com. You can look me up on Instagram and Twitter at Chasing Antler, Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Likewise, you can shoot me an email, jay@BigBuckRegistry.com, and you can visit us on Facebook, Facebook.com/BigBuckRegistry. We're also on Twitter, which is Twitter.com/BigBuckRegistry. We're also on Instagram, Instagram.com/BigBuckRegistry, and YouTube, which is YouTube.com/BigBuckRegistry. On YouTube, you can listen to all of our podcasts in their entirety. As far as videos are concerned, it's a boring video, but the audio content is there, so you can actually listen to our podcast. You can also listen to all of our live shows that we've done on Thursday nights when we do them, and we've gone back and re-interviewed a lot of our previous guests we had on the show just to put a face to a voice, let's put it that way. You can always listen to our show on other places as well, not just YouTube. We're found on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to submit a buck to our page for consideration and be featured on our page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all of the instructions will be right there. I think that's pretty much everywhere we're at. I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Sure is. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.